What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel and back to another video. We are in the car once again with my Sunshine LaCroix. And we're cracking one open. It's sparkling water, by the way. And we're talking about a topic today that may affect you, especially if you turn 26 like I did. Now, mind you, I've had my own health insurance for the 4 years I've been working full time in some sort of way or another. But when you turn 26, you're off your parents' policy. So that means you either have to engage with your employer and get on their policy, or engage with the marketplace and get on your own policy, or when open enrollment rolls around, you get a private policy through someone like United, Florida Blue, etc., etc. So with that being said, we're talking all things insurance in today's video, and I'm covering car insurance, dental insurance, vision insurance, and health insurance. So buckle up or unbuckle, whatever. Don't watch this video while you're driving, please. They're called car chats for a reason. If you're new here, you may not know that, but anyway, nonetheless. So grab a drink. I'm here with my LaCroix Sunshine here, and we're going to talk about it all. Insurance 101, the irony. Okay, so I want to start with the word insurance. Professor mode has been activated here. Okay, the prefix in means not or opposite of. Now, surance isn't technically a suffix, but it implies financial protection. So insurance basically means not assurance, which is funny because I would say the same thing, that insurance is not really an assurance. I mean, that's just how it is. Because when you think about it, you assume that insurance is going to cover certain things, but also part of you has to have that little bird on your shoulder that says, I'm probably going to have to pay something out of pocket. That's how it works. And that's usually the case. At least it has been in my situation. So there is no guarantee, even though it's defined as a guarantee. There is no guarantee because it's only under certain circumstances, etc., etc. There has to be all these boxes checked off for insurance to cover. Doctors have to be in network, all the things. So it's an assurance, but it's with contract stipulations, which typically I'm sure nobody actually reads because it's a 50 or 60 page contract, and who actually reads it unless you're, an attorney. True assurance here, the true lesson for anybody who is discovering insurance here and having to get it on your own, is that there is no assurance. You are better off having money in the bank saved in a high yield savings, ready to go for emergencies, ready to go for whatever, because that is the only guarantee. When I look at investing, I think there's too much risk involved, and I'm not really one that really wants to invest a lot of money and then lose said money. There is only one true assurance, and that's the cash you have in the bank. So there is that. So moving on, ambulance myths and emergency room fears. Growing up, I was told, don't go to the hospital unless you literally think you're dying, period. And definitely don't call an ambulance to take you there because it costs $10,000. Well, turns out that's not entirely true because according to Care Credit, the average cost of an ambulance ride in the US is actually around $1,300 to $1,600 depending on the level of service. Still pretty pricey, but not exactly $10,000. Now, another thing is this job insurance narrative. We're taught to get a job just for the health benefits. But Gen Z over here is freelancing, side hustling, working in industries where health insurance isn't necessarily a given. And you also have to think about it from a small business perspective, right? Insurance is extremely expensive for small businesses. It's much more cost effective when you have more employees. That's just the reality of it. It's like rent. People complain about rent prices going up, right? But look at what's driving it. Property taxes, insurance premiums, and state mandates. If the insurance rate goes up every year, of course the price of rent is going to go up. That property owner is then having to pay more for property taxes. I mean, I pay property taxes for crying out loud, so I get it. And, it's a system that keeps getting more expensive on both ends. So now let's move on to 3 ways to actually get covered. Because if you're watching this video, you're not probably watching it to hear me just rant. You're watching for a solution. So here is that solution. So how do you get health insurance? Okay, here are your options. You either have it through your employer, through a private insurance provider such as Florida Blue or Aetna or United or Cigna, or through the Affordable Care Act, which is also known as Obamacare. Now, the irony of it being called the Affordable Care Act is that it is not actually affordable. So go figure. And I've tried 2 out of 3 of those plans, okay? So last year I had a private plan independently of my employer. And that was my choosing. That's something I chose to do because it was something that I thought would be better. It was lower than what ACA was providing me. And I was like, okay, this can't be that bad, right? Well, it got to a point where I was warned on the phone that the plan that I had purchased may not meet the minimum essential coverage standard. And mind you, that's a big old term that I don't even know what it means. So I was like, oh, so why am I paying for this again? So in August of last year, I finally put my foot down and I called them up and I said, I'm canceling your insurance. I said, you don't allow me to put it on a credit card, which would actually help me continue to pay for it. But because you don't allow that, it's not feasible for me to continue. And on top of that, it doesn't even provide me the minimum essential coverage that I actually need. So there's that. Hello, everyone. It is a Monday and I'm interjecting this car chat to share with you the reality of insurance. Okay, so last year I went to the eye doctor. I paid $5.85 at my appointment when I went. Well, I just got a lovely bill in the mail today. This is when I had insurance that wasn't technically Affordable Care Act insurance. So I don't think it met the minimum standard for whatever those standards are. I don't know. I don't understand it. That's why get insurance through your employer nonetheless. Well, they did make quite a bit of payments here. Actually, what happens is when providers bill insurance, they're usually paid very little and then they're forced to make adjustments. Well, my my $310 visit to the eye doctor last year, I canceled my insurance in August of last year. And I'm shocked that they still paid something, to be honest. We're being honest here. Actually, it looks like they didn't pay. They paid $75. So out of a $310 visit to the doctor, they made them adjust $147. They paid $75. Then they made them adjust from $50. They made adjust to $16, leaving me with a balance of $70.56. Now, mind you, I'm being billed this almost a year later. Not exactly happy about this. But, you know, people wonder, there's a lot of conversation right now around all these Americans who are in debt. When stuff like this decides to show up at your doorstep, some people don't have $70 to just, write a check for. That $70 is food. Seeking medical treatment as a whole is extremely expensive. That's why a lot of people don't do it. The way I was raised, we don't just go to the doctor for every little thing, okay? You don't go to the doctor unless you're sick or dying, and same goes for the hospital. You don't just willy-nilly go to the hospital, okay? You take some ibuprofen and suck it up and get to work. That's the way I was raised. And it's crazy that at 26 years old, that's what I'm saying, but my parents are from a different generation, and medical treatment was not something that we sought ever. But yeah, so this is the reality of healthcare. Lucky that I'm being billed for this a year later, because I went to this visit and then I canceled my insurance the next month. So the fact that they even paid the $147 they did is shocking to me. And secondly, the fact that they still made adjustments is also shocking. But maybe I'll get another bill in the mail. I don't know, friends. This is just a crazy example I wanted to share because I talked about this in this video that y'all are watching. So now let's get back to the video. And I mean, in my mind, it's like, it's 2025. Can you really not accept credit card payments? Even the private companies that I was looking at, they accept credit card payment for the policy. I'm like, come on. So it really kind of baffled me. So fair warning, if you find a company that you want to get insurance through and they do not accept credit card, run for the hills, because that is not something you want to at least get the points for it, right? If I'm paying $350 a month, might as well get the points for it of my 2.2% cash back with SoFi. Then we get to the penalty for not having health insurance. And I had a conversation with a dental hygienist here about a year ago, and she had told me that, she just paid the penalty. She said, I'm not doing that. I'm not participating with that. She said, health insurance is just too dang expensive. I'm like, exactly. And you know what? Before health insurance, we did things the old-fashioned way, where you called up a doctor and told them what was wrong with you, and they called you in a prescription. And I'm going to allude to that later, because that's where I think insurance is going, period. But it's crazy to me that you used to be penalized by our own government. Now, mind you, we're paying taxes here, okay? We fund our government. But yet our government wanted to punish us for not having health insurance. That is just cruel. Truly. Now, at the federal level, that element's gone. And as of 2019, it's gone. So, but certain states, and I'll name a few here: California, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, DC, they still fine you for going uninsured. In California, that fine is $900 per adult and $450 per dependent. Now that adds up. But the reality of it is, paying that fine costs less than being insured. So what are you supposed to do, right? And then let's move on to a different type of insurance, which is car insurance. Okay, I've talked about car insurance before, and I live in Florida, which is a no-fault state, meaning your own insurance pays the first 80% of the first 10,000 of medical bills. That is something that is called PIP, or personal injury protection. And it's regardless of who caused the accident. Okay. Florida only requires $10,000 in personal injury protection and $10,000 in property damage liability. No bodily injury liability is required unless you've actually had a DUI. So if someone crashes into you and they do not have insurance, you're basically out of luck unless you've got something called uninsured motorist coverage. And here's the kicker: a lot of people in Florida don't have insurance at all. So, which technically is against the law. The reality of it is 20% of our state, actually probably more than that, to be honest. It's probably closer to 30 or 40% now, especially with all the growth that Florida's had recently, is uninsured, driving uninsured. That means people are on the road driving, causing accidents, and being uninsured. Now, that's not to say that everybody who's uninsured is causing an accident, but typically it just so happens you just happen to get hit by somebody who doesn't have insurance. So what are you supposed to do? That's where your own insurance comes in, and you're supposed to protect yourself. You're paying a premium to protect yourself, right? So ultimately what that comes down to is the people who don't drive with insurance are driving up the cost of insurance for all the people who do have insurance. Ultimately, it just keeps going up year after year. And then let's talk insurance overlap, because this is why I bring up the car insurance. A lot of people think that if they have health insurance, then they don't need uninsured motorist coverage. But what if your deductible is $8,000? Or that means you're paying out of pocket until you've met that threshold. And yes, having health insurance is better than not having it, but let's not act like it solves everything. And another element of that is, like, people, blatantly spit out that, oh, well, if the government paid for our health insurance. I don't think that's an answer either. To be honest, how can a country that's $38 trillion in debt pay health insurance for every citizen? That's what I'd like to know, because I don't think that's not an answer either. But what is an answer here is doctors who are now offering something called concierge medicine. And because they're fed up with being in network, compliance, all that stuff that goes into that. And this is a model where you essentially pay a flat monthly fee and get direct access to your doctor. It's gaining traction because it's, number one, predictable. Number two, personalized. And number three, cheaper in many cases than standard insurance. If you're young and generally healthy, you might consider going the concierge medicine route. So now let's move on to something that you may have heard of, and that's doctors versus insurers and how that all works. Because I think this made national news. Well, insurance in general has been in the news recently. But it's bad when healthcare providers are fighting insurance companies online on social media, okay? So I don't know if anyone remembers this or not, but the PR disaster that truly was Florida Blue and Baptist Health. It made headlines, got dragged across LinkedIn, and turned into a case study in bad communication. And I think this is why people are losing trust in the system, and why some decide to opt out of insurance altogether if their employer is not covering it. So now let's move on to dental and vision. I just want to know why our teeth and our eyes are treated as if they are separate parts of our body. Because, I mean, I have to insure them with a whole separate plan, you know? And they're in your head. Why do we need extra policies to cover them? I'll give you an example. So last year I had Aetna, okay, for my dental and vision. Now, my dentist was in network in the spring when I went. By fall, he was out of network. Now, I got no notification, no nothing that he was out of network. And my monthly premium went up $10. And so, but it ended up costing me for that dental visit, it ended up costing me nearly $200. And even with insurance in the fall, which you guys have not seen this video yet because I haven't posted it, and I will, hopefully before I post this one. But even with insurance, I paid over $600 for glasses. $600 last December. What the heck? And yes, do I have progressive lenses? Are they more expensive? Yes, but still. Ew, it would have been $900 without insurance. No, that's not true because I would have been able to utilize the 40% off coupon without insurance. So some closing thoughts finally. Here's my wrap up. If you're 26, your options are get insured through work, buy your own plan, use the Affordable Care Act, or simply go uninsured. And I think that going uninsured is becoming more and more popular because of how expensive things continue to get. That's like me. I mean, I'm literally, I think if I were having to pay a portion of my health insurance, I would be spending upwards of $750 a month insuring my car, my eyes, my mouth, and myself. Kind of wild, but that's just life. And you know, the reality of it is that a lot of people cannot afford health insurance. It's too expensive, especially over the last bit of time since I've been working. The cost of everything has just been super inflated. And I mean, it's much more difficult for me at 26 than it ever was for my parents at 26, to be honest. Like the cost of living, I mean, I'm still living at home. My dad, I'm pretty sure he was in his own house at 26. So there's that, but whatever. Yeah, he bought his house for $15,000, right? It's just more expensive. Everything's more expensive. And, you know, when you have to make the decision between health insurance and groceries, you're going to choose groceries because at the end of the day, your health is your wealth. And you can do things that will make you healthier by choosing to eat better or what have you. And health is wealth, period. And, you know, there's a saying, insurance is a racket. And I totally understand why people say that because there's arguments on both sides of that statement. And I get it. I totally get it. But I will say there is so much anxiety for me, especially that comes with not having health insurance. And now that I have health insurance again, I feel much better about it. But there is still that moment of anxiety that you feel about potentially not having health insurance that does, in general, make you more anxious, period. Ultimately, when you have to make the decision between groceries and health insurance, groceries win every time. So with that being said, I hope you found this video helpful. I hope it helps you make sense of navigating insurance. And if you're 26 years old and you have no one to turn to, I hope that this video provides you a little bit of insight about what you can do to get insurance, or you can be fortified in your decision to elect to not have health insurance coverage, because that happens too. And I get it. I've been there. And ultimately, when you have an employer who pays for your health insurance, that is a gift. That is truly a gift. But also at the same time, health insurance is what it is. And honestly, you have to keep in mind that deductible, because yeah, okay, you have health insurance, but if you don't spend over your deductible, you're still going to owe your deductible. So that's where budgeting comes in. Like, there are some people I know I follow on social media who actually save their deductible every year. Believe me, if the extra funds were there, I would probably set that aside, because you never know. You never know what's on the other side of the day, of the year, of the month, of lunch. Insurance is important. It's complex to navigate, but I hope you found this video helpful. And if you did, don't forget to like, subscribe, stay tuned for more. I am an avid communicator of things that Gen Z might not understand, but yet has to navigate. And I give a Gen Z perspective to navigating things because I've I'm someone who has been there, done that, and I want to help as many people as I can. So, that being said, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe and stay tuned for more. And I will see you all in the next one. Bye!